I was listening to an episode of the Afford Anything podcast last week, and there was a great episode with Paula Pant interviewing JD Roth when they started talking about this idea of the wealth snowball at around the 42-minute mark, and I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to share that with you today because it's a concept that I personally haven't heard before. So JD was the one that brought it up and explained it, and then Paula actually chimed in and said what she thought JD was gonna say. Both of their ideas were great strategies for growing your wealth, so I'm gonna cover them both today, but more credit I think goes to JD Roth on this concept. Before I share those, it is worth taking a step back so that I can explain what the debt snowball is, which is semi-related here. So this is a debt payoff strategy where you line up all of your debts. Let's say you have 3 credit card balances with $1,500, $500, and $1,000 on them. From there, again, you line them up from lowest to highest, and you go all in on paying off the lowest debt while paying the minimum on the other balances. And while it might not actually make the most mathematical sense because you're ignoring interest rates, it can actually give you a psychological boost to see a debt just get wiped out completely. So the wealth snowball is kind of the reverse of this concept, sort of.
With that wealth snowball, after you've paid off your debt, instead of flailing around looking for something to do with your money, or instead of resuming your old bad habits, which is what I started to do when I paid off my debt. My initial inclination was to start doing some of the same things that had got me in debt in the first place. Instead of doing those things, why not use this money and use the ideas that you already know from the debt snowball? Use these ideas to build a wealth snowball.
Essentially, JD's definition of the wealth snowball is to front load investments so that they can grow and compound. As long as you paid off your debt, or at least the bad consumer ones like credit cards or a car note, go all in on investing. Ideally, you'd start with your tax advantage retirement accounts like a work-sponsored 401k or your own IRA like a traditional or Roth IRA. Why would you do this? Well, it's because of course, the power of compound interest, where the money your investments earn also earn money and so on from there. It's the idea that it's time in the market, not timing the market, that matters most. So that's the loose math here behind it in the simplest terms. And it actually reminds me of this video that I made where I talked about how you could conceivably save all of your retirement money if you go all in on saving and investing half of your earnings and do it as soon or as young as possible. And if you have a partner, I actually suggested in that video that you live off of one income and invest the other 100%. So how does the wealth snowball work in practice though? Well, it's actually super simple and extremely practical. If you're paying off debt and paying, let's say, $500 a month towards those credit cards, when you finish paying those off, continue to set aside and invest that same $500. This is critical for 2 reasons. First, so that you invest aggressively because you have extra money now. And second, so you don't go back into debt. It is far too common that people go back into debt almost immediately after getting out of debt.
You might then tackle your retirement savings. As time goes on, as your income increases, as you become more disciplined with money, you'll have more cash to throw at your wealth snowball and to contribute to your retirement accounts and then eventually to non-tax advantaged investment accounts.
My recommendation is to crank up that 401k as aggressively as you can. You can usually, by the way, set your contribution as a % of your income or a dollar amount. And I try to do it by dollar amount so that I have full control in terms of keeping it consistent. Hop in there, crank it up $500 as a starting point. And once you start to see returns over time, I hope you feel encouraged and you can up it by, let's just say $25 a month, for example. If you earn a bonus or otherwise benefit from a windfall, invest 90% of that in a traditional IRA or let's say a Roth IRA. This is just as a suggestion to get that wealth snowball going on that IRA side. That is, by the way, an individual retirement account. And you know what? Spend 10% on yourself. And it's funny because I literally did this yesterday. Sweet shoes, right? Paula chimed in though after some of what I just outlined, and she said she thought JD was gonna say, pay or save the minimum towards all of your goals, but pour a fire hose on one goal until it's completed, then move on to the next one.
If a person has a variety of financial goals, rather than spread themselves thin and contribute a small amount to a long list of goals, they should contribute the minimum acceptable amount to every goal and then direct the fire hose of the bulk of their effort and focus and power at one goal and do that until it's done and then move to the next.
Paula, I wish you could see my face right now. I have a big grin because that is not what I was saying, but I love that.
Now, that's actually more similar, I would say, to that debt snowball and a really smart move as well. If you're saving, for example, for a car, a vacation, a house down payment, and your retirement, contribute whatever you deem is the minimum to each of those after each paycheck, but put as much as you can towards one of these, perhaps the easiest to accomplish. So in this case, maybe your vacation fund gets the bulk of that $500 that you plan to save. Either way, any strategy is better than no strategy, but I think I do like JD's idea of that wealth snowball a little bit more than what Paula thought it was gonna be, because JD's focuses exclusively on investing for the long term and your retirement. Now, if you wanna be advanced, pair JD's wealth snowball concept with a focus on continuing to widen the gap between your earning and your spending and invest the difference. So if your savings rate is, let's say 20% now, see if you can get it up to 30% by the end of the year, or really any 365-day period. The key to building a wealth snowball is, I would say, threefold. And come back to me, by the way, if you're multitasking, because I honestly think this is life-changing stuff and all that you need to know about money in one sentence. Okay, maybe two. The steps to building a wealth snowball is to be debt-free, invest your savings as aggressively as you can, especially when you're young, and focus on widening the gap between your income and your expenses so you can leverage the power of compound interest. Start with a small amount invested, invest consistently, and allow your money to grow exponentially.
Basically, the idea with the wealth snowball is you're wanting to use compound interest, take advantage of compound interest and compound investment returns by throwing as much money as you can into your accounts so that your wealth grows more rapidly with time. But I love the idea of making minimum contributions to your most of your financial goals, but then choosing one to, as you said, turn the fire hose on. That's amazing. I love that idea. That's like another approach. I love it.
If you want more tips to increase your net worth, grow your wealth, and have fun along the way, definitely check out my latest book, Money You Can Hack It. It includes 101 money tips and hacks just like this one today. And a little birdie told me that the audiobook should be available anytime. I may or may not have spent 20 hours working on that last weekend. Thank you for your time today, as always. I'm trying to work on just delivering actionable, useful advice in as short as possible. One game-changing takeaway twice a week. If you put them all together, you can certainly retire on time or ideally early. That's my mission, and I'd love to continue to help you on your journey as I share mine here as well. Subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you liked this video and got value out of it. My name is Frankie. Have an awesome week or weekend ahead, and I'll see you in a few days on the next one. And yeah, I did make that audiobook. It is 5.5 hours long, and that's what happens when my fiance goes out of town. I hope she never does that again, because if she left me on my own devices, I think I'd make 7 videos a week and never eat or sleep or exercise. So thank goodness for life partners. Am I right? See you guys.